Dear students, welcome to this module on the registration process at the front desk. One of the first opportunities for face-to-face contact with the hotel occurs when the guest registers. At this time, all the activities, that is the marketing efforts and the computerized reservation system, should come together. The front desk clerk, who is well trained in the process of registration, must be able to portray the hotel in a positive manner. This good first impression will help ensure an enjoyable visit by the guest in the hotel. This module on the registration process will enable you to understand the formalities during the process of registration and also describe the importance of registration process in the various departments of the hotel. The registration process is arguably a most important part in the process of hotel reservations. It is during this time the lasting impressions are made among the guests. It has been said that 75% of the guests' total satisfaction with the hotel is determined during this process of registration, and you can imagine how important is this process of registration. A successful hotel must do whatever it can to ensure that the guest is satisfied with all aspects of registration. Now, let me tell you the importance of the guest registration process. The first step in the guest registration process begins with capturing the guest data such as name, address, zip code, length of stay, company, affiliation, which are all needed during his or her stay after departure. Various departments in the hotel require this particular information to provide various services to the guest throughout the stay in the hotel. The registration process continues with the extension of credit, room selection, room rate, application, opportunity to sell hotel services, room key assignment and folio processing. Continuously efficient performance of this process of registration is essential to ensure all the hospitality services for the guests and profitability of the hotel in turn. Here we should know what is the importance of the first guest contact. The first impression is a best impression a guest receives during the services in the hotel. During registration, it is extremely important in setting the tone for hospitality and establishing a continuous business relationship. The guest who is warmly welcomed with the sincere greetings will respond very much positively to the hotel and will expect similar hospitality from other hotel employees also. If the guest receives a half-hearted, less enthusiastic about the lodging facilities, and this will be more likely to find fault with the hotel during the further stay at the hotel. Today's guest expects to be treated with respect and concern, and many hotels make the effort to meet these expectations from all their guests. Those who do not should not expect the guest to return next time with us. And next important in the registration process is capturing the guest data. It is important to note at this outset the value of capturing the guest data at this process of registration. The information is used by many employees in the hotel to provide services and hospitality to the guest. It will be used to transfer all messages to guests, to inform the staff of the guest needs and to check all the credit background and to process the charges. Guests will undoubtedly receive phone calls, messages, mail, fax, transmission that the hotel must deliver on behalf of the guest. Recording the proper spelling of the guest name, including the initial, during the process of registration will assist the telephone operator and bellboy in locating the correct guest. Guest special needs such as certain room furnishings, facilities for the physically challenged, separate folios for guests, splitting costs, wake-up calls, or requests for rooms on lower floors that were not indicated when the reservations were made earlier should be noted and communicated to all the appropriate departments and hotel staff during this process of registration. And now we will see exact detail of the registration procedure. The guest registration procedures involve several steps which is followed accurately, and this will allow the management to ensure a pleasant, efficient and a safe visit in the hotel. The guest registration process involves the following steps. These are generally as they relate to the effective front office management. And these include: number 1, guest request to check into the hotel. Number 2, front desk clerk projects hospitality towards the guest. Number 3, front desk clerk inquires about the guest reservation. And number 4, guest completes the registration card. Number 5, front desk clerk reviews the completeness of the registration card. And number 6, front desk clerk verifies the credit limit. And number 7, front desk clerk selects the rooms for the guest. Number 8, front desk clerk makes the room assignment based on the requirements. Number 9, front desk clerk assigns the room rate to the assigned room. Number 10, front desk clerk discusses the sales opportunities for the hotel products and services with the guest. Number 11, front desk clerk provides the room key to the guest and so that they can be escorted. And finally, front desk clerk finishes this process of registration. Now, let us see the hospitality to the guest at this process of registration. The registration process begins when a guest requests to check inside the hotel. The guest may arrive alone or sometimes with a group. The front desk clerk begins this check-in process with the display of hospitality towards the guest, which is an important element which includes eye contact, a warm smile and an inquiry regarding the travel experience, an offer to assist the guest in a dilemma, and so on. As mentioned earlier, the importance of a warm welcome to the guest's positive impression of the hotel and its staff cannot be overemphasized. Most travelers expect a common courtesy along with a quality product and a well-developed delivery system, as this forms a home away from home. Next is the inquiry about the registration. After the front desk clerk has welcomed the guest, he or she asks if a reservation has been placed already. If the guest responds, the reservation is retrieved, and if the guest or a walk-in or a chance reservation, then the receptionist must first check the availability of the rooms before registering the guest. If a room is available, it will be offered to the guest, and the guest must be informed on the room tariff and other details. Upon acceptance, the guest will be requested to complete a registration form. If the rooms are available, the next step is the guest completing the registration form. Now we will have to see the completion of this process of registration process through the registration form. The registration card provides the hotel with the guest billing information and provides the guest with information on checkout time, room rates, and so on. If the guest has a reservation done, then the completion of the registration card is also important, as it verifies the spellings of names, address, phone numbers, anticipated dates, the departure details, number of people in the group, room rate, and method of payment. And now you can see the registration card too. A portion of the registration form supplies the information about the guest, so the hotel, and has an accurate listing of all the registered guests in the hotel property. This record is also used for the billing purpose by the accounts department. The registration form has the following details to be filled by the guests themselves. The registration form, as you can see, contains the details like arrival date, departure date, arrival time, number of rooms, room type, daily rate, number of guests, advance deposit, room number, the package plan of the hotel, name, address, and in addition we can see that the foreign nationals will have to enter details like passport number, date and place of issue, nationality, company, and departing to, that is their next destination, along with the signature of the guest, and it is also countersigned by the receptionist. This process and the purpose of registration is to record a guest's arrival and confirm all the personal details as well as to satisfy the legal requirements too. In addition to the registration form, a form called as C form is to be filled by all the overseas and the foreign nationals. According to the Immigration Order 1972, the hotel records follow details must be recorded for all guests over the age of 16, and this is also a mandatory and a legal requirement. This consists of details such as name, nationality, date of arrival to India, passport number and place of issue, the visa details, reference if any in the local area, next destination if known, date of departure. The front desk should quickly review the completeness of this registration card from the guest. After the guest fills, next step is to review the completeness of the registration form. Any areas remaining blank should be called to the guest's attention. Such omissions may be oversights or there may be an effort by the guest to commit fraud. The front desk clerk should also be sure to complete the sections of the registration card for which the staff is responsible, including the projected checkout date, room number, number of guests in the room, room rate and signature of the staff. Registration card is then filled with the folio in the folio cell. With these details from the registration card, next is the process of selecting the room, that is room selection. The part of the registration process include the front desk clerk selection of the guest room, which can be confusing for the front desk clerk and for the guests too. And this process is an important one. This selection involves blocking guest rooms after the guest's arrival, maintaining an accurate room rack used in the traditional registration process, meeting the guest needs, maintaining a room inventory system. If the guest is assigned a room that does not meet his or her personal requirements, the guest then requests for a different room, and this also should be considered by the front desk staff. The front desk staff responds with a list of available options that seems to meet the guest request and can be done to meet the requests of the guests. Here it is important that we know about the blocking procedure of the rooms. The blocking procedure is very important in ensuring an even flow of the processing guests who want to check in at various points of time throughout the day. Blocked rooms allow the front desk clerk to immediately assign a room to the guest without searching through confirmed or guaranteed reservations as well as in the available room inventory report. Otherwise, the clerk could have to review the reservation and all the available rooms upon the arrival of the guest. The blocking procedure begins with the review of the confirmed and the guaranteed reservation as well as the expected checkouts on a particular day. For example, a 200-room hotel has 125 rooms occupied already on a night of November 1, with 25 room checkouts scheduled for the departure on the next day. For example, if a hotel has 200 rooms and has 125 rooms already occupied on the night of November 1, for example, with allowing 25 room checkouts scheduled for the morning of November 2, the front office manager could determine that 100 rooms are available for guests to use on the next day, that is on November 2. 200 rooms available in the hotel, where 125 rooms already occupied on November 1, where we have 75 rooms available for sales on November 1, and also together with it 25 rooms which are going to be checked out on November 2nd, and this will allow a total of 100 rooms available for sale on November 2. And from this 100 rooms are available and the availability of rooms is 100. The front office staff here should be able to determine which room should be assigned to which reservation by the guest. This is the blocking procedure. Next to learn is handling the room rack. In many hotels that use property management system, that is PMS softwares, to maintain the entire process of the hotel reservation, the room rack has been replaced with an electronic room rack, which is helpful in the computerized system in the early stages of adopting a PMS. The room rack is retained as a mental support mechanism just in case the system goes down, the manual records are taken out. However, the front desk clerk becomes comfortable with operating the property management system PMS. Reliance on the room rack for guests becomes suitable thing. Reliance on the room rack for guest room information is discontinued. It is important for those students who are aspiring for a career in hotel management to understand this vital components of the room rack, which are now inside the software, the property management system PMS. A review of the features of the room rack will assist in understanding the room selection process. The physical features of the manual room rack include the listing of all the hotel room with numbers in the numerical order. The first digit in this series of the room number indicates the floor level and the remaining digits indicate the exact room number. The front office should know to meet all the guest requests and demands. Guest needs usually include bed requirements, room location, floor plan arrangement and other ancillary services, room design and equipped for special needs, immediately availability and price. If the guest has a reservation, the room selection will be blocked prior to the guest arrival. The walk-in guest presents the opportunities to the front desk clerk to optimize all the sales and also at the same time meet the guest demands and needs. Meeting the guest needs comprise special accommodation, location, layout and decor of the room, equipments available in the room, special needs if any needed, availability and also at the same time the price constraints by the guest. Special accommodation. The first issue in room selection is meeting the guest request for special accommodations. The general trend in designing the hotel rooms in part to the requirements by the guest include placing two beds, usually a king size, a queen size, double beds in the room which can accommodate guests, business clients sharing a room, a family of two and all others who can share this under special accommodation. The design permits the front desk staff more freedom in assigning the room, since so many different needs can be met according to the guest requirements. Location. The guest often requests a certain room location, especially on the lower floor or on the lower levels of the hotel, or sometimes near the parking lot, or sometimes away from the elevators, in the corner of the floor, in far away from the convention. And also these considerations and certain views of the area may be requested and considered and par with the guest demands. Rooms with special views are priced higher, as you know. As the guest is willing to pay more feelings, this will enhance the visit. Although these rooms are limited by the design and location for the building, they add a certain character to the lodging property. The marketing and sales department will usually promote all these rooms very much heavily. Sometimes the guest request for specific location or views can be easily met. Other times, a lack of available rooms will force the guest to compromise sometimes to these special needs. And now we will see the layout and decor of the rooms. The guest may sometimes request a certain floor plan or room decor. If a business person wants to use a room as a small meeting room as well as a sleeping area too, a room with a Murphy bed, a bed that is base of the headboard and swings up to the wall and can be used for storage should be assigned if available. A guest who is on extended business trip may request a room with a kitchenette too, where it has all the kitchen equipments and he can cook on his time. Several people sharing a room for a visit may appreciate a room where the sleeping and living areas are usually a separate one. Now we will see the equipment needs. Guests also request various ancillary equipment and amenities. Although a cable television or telephones are available in the now standard room furnishings, large screen televisions, recorders, satellites, receptions, computer and internet, more than one telephone may be requested sometimes by the guest. Some hotels also provide computers and convertible desks that would accommodate especially the business client needs. Apart from this, we will have to also consider other special needs. Guests often request rooms designed and furnished with equipments to meet all their special needs. Room equipped for hearing impaired, for example, guests in wheelchair are a very common scene that you can see in a hotel. Advances in hotel marketing, building designs and construction and electronically safety features allow all the guests with physical disability even to enjoy all the facilities of the hotel. Availability. Immediate availability is of great concern to most of the guests. Usually a traveler has spent many hours in transit in travel and wants to unload baggage faster and freshen up and move on to other activities. For the guests, registration is the last step before collapsing from a tiring journey, day of travel and other activities. Guest is very vulnerable at this time, often willing to accept a higher rate that meets his or her immediate needs. Now we will see about the price constraints. Price is often another guest concern. Guests with budget constraints must request a room for a lowest tariff. This is their primary concern. Room location, floor plan, room arrangements and other ancillary equipments and immediate occupancy play lesser roles in the room selection now. When guest accommodation requests are least expensive room available, a front desk staff should try to accommodate them from the availability inventory of the rooms as soon as possible. During this process of guest registration, another aspect to be known in thorough is the room inventory, that is, the stocks of the rooms. Maintaining a room inventory system involves constantly updating all facts and checking a database that indicates the housekeeping status, a term which indicates the room availability, such as whether the room is an occupied room or a stay over room or on change room, or sometimes even the out of order rooms which are unavailable for sale. This fact of registration requires a constant communication efforts among the front office, housekeeping, maintenance and reservation staff. Accurate, up-to-date room status reports are vital to the operation of the front desk for providing guest hospitality and at the same time also to meet the financial availability. The desk clerk who assigns a dirty room to the guest conveys his incompetence in his duty. Assigning a room that is already occupied creates hospitality embarrassment for both the new and the already staying guest. This should never happen in the hotel. Next, we will go on to see the types of room rates which can be accommodated during this process of guest registration. Rack rate. A rack rate is the highest room rate charged by the hotel. It is the rate given to the guest who does not fall into any particular category, such as a walk-in guest who requests a room for a night without any prior reservations. Corporate rate. Can you guess what is this corporate rate? Yes, room rates that are offered to the business clients staying in the hotel. This category can be further broken down into business clients who are frequent guests and guests who are employees of the corporate that has contracted for a rate that reflects all business from that corporate or a company. This is a corporate rate. Now we will see what is a commercial rate. Room rates for business people who represent from a company and have an infrequent or a sporadic pattern of travel, who are not frequent guests, come under this category. And also we should know the military and educational rates. Room rates established for military personnel and educators because they travel on restricted travel expense accounts and are price conscious very much. These groups are a source of significant room sales because their frequent visits may supply a sizable amount of repeat business in future also. Okay, now we will see what is a group rate. Room rates offered to large group of people visiting the hotel for a common reason. Usually this group rate is offered to the number of guests. When they are 15 or more than 15, they will be categorized under group rate or a group tariff. The marketing and sales department usually negotiate with the travel agency or with a professional organization which has mediated for this group travel. Now we will see family rates. Room rates offered to encourage the visits by families along with children are offered this family rate, and this occurs usually during seasonal or some promotional times. And now we will see what is a package rate. Room rates that include goods and services in addition to rental of the room or developed by marketing and sales department to guests into a hotel during their low sales period, or we call that as an off-season period. These rates are applicable. So far we have seen the different tariffs, the room rates that are available and known by the registration staff during this process. Now we will go on to the next recent technology, that is registration with a property management system. Property management system PMS have many capabilities, including registration to review the basic applications of this software PMS. Here the registration module will comprise all these details. Retrieve the reservation forms, check room inventory option, check room status option, verify the room rate, and finally issue the room key. Now let us see all of these steps of the PMS in detail. Number 1, retrieve the reservation forms. The registration module is put to use before the guest arrives at the hotel to the registration process. The guests who have placed reservations with the hotel have already been entered into the PMS database. Number 2 is checking the room inventory option. If the guest cannot produce a confirmation number or the reservation number cannot be found, the front desk clerk will try to provide accommodation based on the details in the PMS. The room inventory and the room status options of the registration module will determine whether the rooms are available or not. Next we will go on to see the step 3, which is checking the room status option. The desk clerk also needs to know which rooms are ready for occupancy and which can be determined by activating the room status option of this software PMS. This option is similar to the room inventory option but does not include rates and has a column on status telling the desk clerk which rooms are being cleaned and served serviced by the housekeeping staff, and which are being repaired, which are already occupied by the guests, which are available for sale. All these details can be seen from this step 3. Now, step 4 is verifying the room rate. The guest may remember a verbal quoted rate at the time of registration, which is not on the confirmation form or even in the PMS. It is wise to discuss any discrepancy with the guest and to avoid further problems during checkout, and hence this 4th step is